those whom I am pleased to bestow the benefit. Now, I like to draw a picture on the blackboard of a group of stick figures and representing people, and these people represent the masses of the human race, and I'll put six stick figures on the board, and I'll put a circle around 3 of them and another circle around the other 3. And I said, let's let the one circle represent the people who receive this unspeakable gift of divine grace in election, and the other circle represent those who do not. And ask the question, if God chooses sovereignly to bestow his grace on some sinners and withhold his grace from other sinners, is there any violation of justice in this? If we look at those who do not receive this gift, do they receive something they do not deserve? Of course not. If God allows these sinners to perish, is he treating them unjustly? Of course not. One group receives grace, the other receives justice. No one receives injustice. And God, like a governor in a state, can allow certain criminals who are guilty to have the full measure of their penalty imposed against them, but the governor also has the right to pardon, to give executive clemency, as he declares, so that that person who receives clemency receives mercy. And if the governor commutes one person's sentence, does that mean he's obligated to do it for everybody else? By what rule of justice? By what rule of righteousness is that so? Not at all. Paul is saying there is no injustice in this, because Esau didn't deserve the blessing in the first place, and he doesn't get the blessing. God hasn't been unfair to Esau. Well, Jacob didn't deserve the blessing either, and he does get the blessing. Jacob receives blessing, Esau receives the justice. And then nowhere in there is an injustice perpetrated. But why is that? What is the purpose for that? Well, Paul then comes to verse 16, and this is a very important verse in Romans 9. He begins it with this word, so. This is kind of like the word therefore. He's coming to a conclusion. And he says, so then, it is not of him who wills, nor of him who runs, but of God who shows mercy. Now, the Scripture says to the Pharaoh, for this very purpose I have raised you up, that I may display my power in you, and that my name may be declared in all the earth. Therefore he has mercy on whom he wills, and whom he wills, he hardens. Now, you would think when Paul speaks as emphatically and clearly as he does here, when he declares it is not of him who wills, or of him who runs. You would think that that would end all of the debates and all of the discussions and all of the theories and all of the doctrines that in the final analysis makes election conditional on the one who wills. But Paul demolishes human will as the basis for God's sovereign election. The only basis I can find according to the Scripture is that, yes, salvation is based upon will. And yes, it is based upon free will. Now I'm confusing everybody. But it is based upon the will and the free will of a sovereign God who elects, as Paul teaches elsewhere, according to the good pleasure of his will. Now, if you ask me why I came to faith And why I am in the kingdom and my friends aren't, I can only say to you, I don't know, but this much I do know. It's not something I did to deserve it. It's not some condition that I met in my flesh. The only answer I can give is the grace of God. And you ask me, why does he give that grace to me and not to somebody else? And if I begin to give an answer that suggests that it was something good in me that he perceived, I would no longer be talking about grace. I would be talking about some good thing that I did that was the basis for God to elect me. But I don't have anything like that to offer. If the Bible teaches anything over and over and over again, it is that salvation is of the Lord.